So earlier it was the Lakers, now it's the 76ers. Another team who could acquire Kawhi Leonard if this trade from the Spurs is really going to happen, which I'm not entirely convinced that Kawhi is going to be traded. I wouldn't be shocked if he somehow resolves it with Popovich. They give him the super max and then they just go from there. But we'll entertain the idea, of course. So I've already said I think the Celtics can make the best offer if they're really all in on Kawhi. I think Philadelphia potentially could make the second best offer, even over the Lakers, but it depends on Markelle Fultz, right? Because, I mean, if the dude's healthy, I don't even know if it's health. It's if his jump shot works, then he's probably going to be a 20 to 25 point scorer because that's what everybody said he was going to be, right? Leader of an offense, similar to Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, where not the greatest playmaker, but he's so good on offense and his spacing is so good and gets to the free throw line and all that stuff, it works out anyway, right? But if he can't shoot, and I'm not talking like these mid-range jumpers, I'm talking like three-pointers, off the dribble, contested threes in the pick and roll, that type of stuff, which he was expected to do. If he can't do that stuff, then his impact on offense decreases significantly, and as a result, you probably don't do the move at that point if you're San Antonio, because the move would probably be like Fultz, the 10th pick, and then either Covington or Saric in order to make the money work. I mean, a 100% Fultz and then the 10th pick in this draft, to me, is like a hell of an offer for a guy like Kawhi, because I think Fultz is that good. But again, you know, if you can't shoot, then it's probably not as good as an offer the Lakers could make, honestly, between Ingram or Kuzma, maybe Julius Randle in a sign-and-trade sort of deal. I don't think the Spurs would want Lonzo just because of the LeVar Ball stuff, but, you know, it's a big unknown. But let's say that Fultz is far along enough to where the Spurs are comfortable taking him on, right? And now you have Kawhi Leonard on this Sixers team. How good is that team? Well, defensively, they're a nightmare. Joel Embiid makes you a great defensive team almost by default. And then you have Kawhi, Ben Simmons. Decent chance Robert Covington would be in the move just because he and Kawhi pretty much play the same position. So you'd lose out on him, but the upgrade from him to Kawhi would still be massive. Now, if you still had Covington, like maybe San Antonio would prefer to take on Saric, and then maybe a third team would have to be in there to make the money work, or maybe the jump in the salary cap would allow you to do that, because the Spurs are like hugging the cap right now, and if it were to go up by a little bit, and then Philadelphia is way under the cap, but I may be misunderstanding how the cap works and when it actually jumps and all that stuff, but whatever. We'll say if Covington somehow found a way to still be on the team, then you'd have like a super switchy lineup and all that. And then from a shooting standpoint, I mean, Kawhi's a great shooter. Between Ben Simmons and Embiid and the stuff that those two will do and the open shots that those two generate for others, you have Kawhi there. And then the fact that the defense probably wouldn't want to leave Kawhi open that much would lead to shots for other guys. I mean, yeah, it would be a really good situation offensively, right? And then you assume that Brett Brown would have enough basketball smarts to just have them moving off ball at times. So whether that's like Simmons screening for Kawhi off ball sometimes, or I mean, I'm sure Embiid would be doing that. And then just basic stuff like Kawhi and Embiid, two-man game, Simmons and Embiid stuff. Yeah, that team would be really good. I guess the only fear is Kawhi going ISO at the top of the key, and then Simmons having to play off of that. But Simmons is also a really good cutter. And I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know how often he cut in his first season, but you just look at his physical profile, and there's no way the guy's not going to be an effective cutter. So you leave him open, and he'll be able to still do stuff. And even if it's not cutting, he could still just attack a closeout effectively. I mean, he can get by people not named Al Horford whenever he wants to. And then if you're closing out on him, it just makes it easier for him. I guess the next thing you ask is, can a completely good-to-go Kawhi, which is a thing that teams need to care about. You know, it's the injury. It's also just all the stuff with him this previous year about never totally communicating with the Spurs and all that. I mean, you have to care about that, especially when you have a younger team and all that stuff. But assuming you're confident enough in all that stuff, would this be the best team in the East, depending on what LeBron does? Yeah, I mean, would that team be better than the Celtics? I feel like they would be good enough to beat the Celtics, yeah. I mean, I do think Boston is going to be insanely good once Kyrie and Hayward are 100% each, because you're looking at those two being back. Brad Stevens' system, which was so good for them even without Hayward the whole year. And then you're going to get another year of improvement out of Jason Tatum, you know? And this new Terry Rozier could be a thing as well. So, yeah, I think very highly of the Celtics moving forward. So I'm sure it'd be a hell of a series. Are they better than the Raptors? I would think so, yeah. I mean, Kawhi is better than DeRozan. He's better than Lowry. There's a chance that third-year Joel Embiid is better than both of those guys. Hell, there's a chance that second-year Ben Simmons might be better than both of those guys. So, yeah. There's definitely reason to do it on the basketball side. But again, so much of it is dependent on Markelle Fultz and his shooting. So, we'll see what the Spurs feel about that again. Another thing to mention is that this would give Philly 3 max guys, which is still kind of affordable, between Kawhi, Simmons, and Embiid. And I actually don't know if Embiid's contract is maxed right now. It is an ascending contract, but I mean, I've mentioned before where I think the Celtics, if they were to trade for Kawhi, they could have 4 max guys on their team. You know, depending on what Horford wants to do with his next deal. That's difficult to pay for. Having 3 max guys, it's a bit easier. So that's something that's going for Philadelphia as well. And yeah, I think that's about all I got. I would prefer to stretch this to like 10 to 12 minutes or whatever, but I don't want to repeat myself for 2 minutes. So that'll do it. We'll see what happens with the Sixers and Kawhi.